Dealers, early access to our private dealer chat groups is now open. Join top dealers at cdgcircles.com. That's cdgcircles.com, or hit the link in the show notes. I'll see you inside.
They were trying to go direct to consumer under the guise of being an EV brand, EV only brand. And now they have a hybrid. So that changes things. So what's stopping any other brand from just starting a new competitive brand and competing with their dealer body?
Today, I'm joined by Fred Emich IV, partner at Emich Automotive and chairman of the VW National Dealer Council. Fred's been at the center of one of the toughest transitions in modern auto retail, navigating EV growing pains, shifting OEM strategies, and the looming impact of Scout's return. And after years of rebuilding trust post-Dieselgate, the stakes have never been higher for Fred, his stores, and the entire VW network. A big thank you to our sponsors for making this episode possible: LotLinks, CDK Global, and CDG Circles. And now let's get into the show. Fred Emich IV on the CDG podcast. Welcome, Fred.
Thanks for having me on.
I surprised you with the fourth. You didn't expect that.
I did not expect that. So, like you said, you did your homework.
Yeah, although I'm rusty on my Roman numerals, I'm not gonna lie. So when I saw it, I'm like, wait, is this the sixth or the fourth? Because I remember the I, the V. So, but it's been a while, but I did get that. Welcome. It's great to have you on. Growing dealer in the Denver region, Volkswagen National Dealer Council chairman. This will be a fun conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Let's start a bit more lighthearted before we even talk about anything. I heard you are possibly a race car driver, maybe competitive skier. I think that was ski racing. Tell us a little bit about this. I mean, I'm assuming you live in Denver, so you kind of fall into it. It's inevitable in one way or another. But tell us about the race car driving and skiing.
Yeah, so the skiing started as a kid, and yeah, if you live in Denver, that's why my parents moved here, and my dad, particularly coming from Illinois, was really interested in skiing as much as he could, and getting us up there. And his sister was a ski instructor, and so I got into ski racing at a young age and took that as far as I could, all the way through college, and almost did a little bit beyond that, but injured myself pretty bad at the end of my college tenure and decided that it was time to get a real job. Race car driving kind of came out of skiing. There's a lot of similarities in terms of line and how you hold speed, and you can just draw. You can take a lot from ski racing and apply it to car racing. And I was always interested in driving cars fast. Go-karts, racing, stuff like that. So I got a chance in like 2010, 2011 time period where I could get a free Volkswagen chassis in white and turn it into a race car. And at the time, Volkswagen had some pretty good contingency money in World Challenge. So we built out a car to chase some money, and it worked out pretty well. Wish I was still doing it, but family came along and business and everything like that. And so now I participate in not at the same level. Every now and then I'll jump in a car for an endurance race or something like that. We do a track day twice a year. So
very cool.
Still interested, but would love to be out there all the time.
So car business, are you first gen in the business? Because I saw you were at AutoNation early in your career, let's say roughly 20 years ago. So first gen, second gen, what's the story here?
Good question. So I'm fourth generation in the business, not through succession though, like you normally see. So my father sold out to AutoNation when I was about 15 years old. And then kind of the way that it worked is at that point, he told me that when I was 8, I told him I didn't want to be a car dealer. So he sold out and didn't have a conversation with me beforehand.
Took you very literally. Yeah.
And I have a son who's 9, so I make sure not to take him too literally in terms of what he wants to do in the future. So he sold out, worked for AutoNation. I was obviously young at the time, thought I was going to be a ski racer anyways. Went through college, ended up, one summer in New York City, thought I was kind of going that direction in finance. Kind kind of
like all of us.
Yeah, and I think it was a aha moment.
You're looking at someone that applied to intern at JP Morgan, so like all of us.
Aha moment for me was, towards the end of the internship and the luster of the city had kind of worn off. And I used to take 2 subways in a suit to work. And in the summer, it's just so hot and humid down there. And I'm just waiting with this crowd of people for the subway to come and basically push this rat infested air my way. So like a cooling feeling. And I was like, I just need to go back to Colorado. And then I realized that, when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next with my life, that I knew so much about the car business that I'd kind of be silly not to take and apply that knowledge. And then I talked to my dad about getting back into it. He was really excited. At that point, I came back, worked for AutoNation. He had non-compete, so we had to let that lapse, as well as he had to kind of quit and allow another smaller non-compete. And then we got an opportunity in 2006 with a Chevy and a VW store.
Incredible. So today, are you partners with your father?
I'm partners with my father. We had another business partner up until July who'd worked with my father since 1975, and he just recently retired. I also have my cousin runs our Kia location, and he's also a partner in the Kia store as well as the Volkswagen store in Boulder.
So you're not afraid of confrontation. I read about that Kia acquisition, or I would say that the launch of that store, and that wasn't a walk in the park, right? You opened that store about 6 years ago, or maybe a little bit more at this point. But right away when I was reading about you, I said, okay, adrenaline junkie to a certain extent, not afraid of confrontation. So you make things happen. What happened there in 2018? You sought to open this store, and you clearly were convicted that you can make it happen, and you did, went to court. But how can you just give us like a summary of that experience and why you really believed that you were going to succeed at that?
Yeah. So it all stemmed out of, we couldn't come to terms with our landlord where Volkswagen was at, where the Kia location is currently at. So I was looking for a long-term, place where I could relocate Volkswagen, own the property, kind of own my destiny. Found a location, went through the whole relocation process with Volkswagen, presented it to all the Volkswagen dealers, got through the protest period. So that was a very long period just to be able to move the Volkswagen store. And then in the process, Bob, who was our business partner, he was interested in, hey, we still have some time left here. Maybe we can put another franchise here. A Kia store had closed nearby. Maybe that's an opportunity. So we started conversations with Kia. February 2019, we relocated, so moved Volkswagen off of this Colorado Boulevard location to Santa Fe to the new location. And at that point, we actually had a letter of intent with Kia. So it, on paper, was going to work out just great. We're going to move Volkswagen. We're going to get Kia. Also kind of realized kind of through this that, if you control the real estate where the manufacturers want to be, you have a much better opportunity in terms of getting an open point. So got the letter of intent with Kia. Moving forward, last day in the protest period, two dealers filed an injunction against Kia. This being 2019, COVID hits in 20 before they moved it from state to federal court, and then it really prolonged the process. And it wasn't until May of 22 that we were operating a Kia location. And that's after Kia won in federal court, blocking the injunction.
Well, what's your dad thinking through this entire process? Like, is he on, like, what do I need this for? Or is he like all in? Like, no, this makes sense. We're gonna make this happen.
We were committed to Kia at that point, and Kia, they supported us. They funded the entire, federal lawsuit, which I'm sure was not inexpensive. and at that point, we had the property, we had a pretty good lease on it, and we were just trying to operate it. So we were running a used car dealership out of there, and the used car dealership was fairly successful. We were paying the bills, we were making some money. So we were able to kind of just, tread water until we had a final, say in terms of what we were going to do. And then at that point, we were going to make a decision whether we, obviously continued with Kia or if we were going to close the area or just continue selling used cars there.
This episode is brought to you by LotLinks. ChatGPT can write emails, plan trips, even tell jokes, but it can't tell you which VINs are at risk of sitting too long, how your dealership performs against your competition, or how to improve your VDPs. That's where LotGPT comes in. It's the only chatbot built exclusively for car dealers. It knows your market, dealership, and inventory. Fueled by LotLinks' decades of VIN and shopper data, plus your live inventory, Google Analytics, and CRM, it delivers relevant answers and guidance to help you sell cars faster and more profitably. LotGPT is free for dealers, but invite only. Join the waitlist now at lotlinks.com/LotGPT or click the link in the show notes below.
I mean, you made a pretty good bet. I'm actually looking right now at the Blue Sky multiple on Kia, and I mean, this thing has been on a tear for the past 5 years. So how's the store doing? I also know that you have led the state, as if I'm not mistaken, in EV sales. I believe you have led it for quite a while. I know it's likely been rocky over the past month since the tax credit's gone away.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so EV sales on the Kia, Volkswagen side have been really robust. Kia stores is doing well. Actually, in September, we were the number one EV dealer in the nation out of Colorado. So pretty good on the Kia side, beating the
for Kia.
For Kia, yeah. On the Volkswagen side, we are the number one and number two EV dealers in the nation. We're supported, obviously, by a great market here in Colorado where people are interested in EVs. We have a great tax credit. And, people may work in an industry or do an activity where they realize that global warming is a real thing. Smog, as I know, when I was a kid here, you could see it visibly with the mountains and depending on how the wind was blowing, everything like that. So I think people realize that that's the future and there's a reason to go EV. And with that, I mean, Kia continued on with the incentives pretty close to what we had in September, in October. We have a Chevy franchise, which, they had a program that was short-lived that was supposed to be a fourth quarter program, but we ran it through October. But at the end of the day, we had such a rush, I think, in that third quarter that we didn't see much sales. We'd pulled so many people forward who was interested in EV.
Of course.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Okay. How did you become the number one seller of EVs? That's a very intentional, regardless of market, like you have to be very intentional about that. What did you do? And also you mentioned global warming. Like, is this like an ideological pursuit for you? Is this simply like a financial thing? Like there's a demand here, I'm going to capture the demand, a combination of the two. You mentioned something when you were young. I'm curious to know like how you actually decided like, we're going to really tackle this market hard and what steps you took to accomplish that.
I mean, to begin with, I've driven an EV for probably 3-4 years. I believe in the technology. I love the cars. So from the top down, I really promote EV driving technology, and whether you're doing it for performance, whether you're doing it to save money, whether you're doing it for the environment, there's many reasons to drive an EV versus a internal combustion vehicle. With that, I guess it goes all the way back to really 2015 with Volkswagen, going through the TDI scandal, that flipping that brand to going full on in EV. Unfortunately, we weren't the first to market, but we were close to first to market beyond, Tesla. And with that, there's some very early investments into EV infrastructure. So we do have 2 public chargers that'll do 125 kilowatts at our VW location. Our Kia location is actually under construction right now, and we're going to have, I think, two 200 kilowatt chargers at that location that are public. So we're supporting both the infrastructure side of things. We obviously, when you're doing a high volume of EVs anyways, you need some really good charging, but it's also good to, support, driving and charging and the infrastructure as well. So there's that. And, we've gotten kind of everyone behind it. Almost all of our salespeople drive them, mainly because they're so inexpensive, but also because the performance, the technology, everything else is really there. So it's kind of a no-brainer.
When it comes to retailing them, do you believe that a dealer has to go out of their way to create process, or I should say, adjust their sales process to serve an EV customer in like a better way? Or do you think any dealer could be stellar at retailing EVs? Because, there are literally dealers out there who only do EVs, like used car dealers. And then there's new car dealers, franchise dealers like yourself, who are just, really great at selling new EVs. I'm curious to know how you think about just the retailing side of things and, how specialized you need to be as a dealer to successfully retail EVs at high volume, or is it strictly a function of pricing, affordability? Put the price low enough, you'll be the number one EV retailer in the country. What is it?
I think there's a combination of things. For us, the customers, we don't treat an EV customer different than a gas customer. I would say, though, when we were selling a very high volume of EVs, whether it was this past third quarter, last year, whatever the time frame is we did make it very easy for our sales consultants to sell them. So we had kind of templated quotes that were printed out that you could take any trim level, you could send it. It was kind of a no negotiation deal. It was a great deal for the customer. It was a good deal for us. Both sides of the party were happy, and we made a lot of deals easy that way. And I guess maybe the same expectation that they would have working with, direct to consumer, brand where they're online or something like that. So we're able to give them, basically a great quote in a very quick time frame and with no, going back and forth.
Mm-hmm. And as someone who has really dominated the segment very well, what's your plan now with the tax credit having gone away, which clearly will have an impact on sales?
Yeah.
Are you changing anything? What's your, to what extent is this really impacting your operations and just your go forward plan?
Right now we're trying to figure it out, and we knew that we were going to have an incredible third quarter, and the fourth quarter was going to be really tough. Some brands have surprised us. So Kia being one of those that's continued to support the EV business. Although I don't know how long that's going to last and at what point that adjusts. But with our Chevy and VW business now, we have to now wait until that market realizes that they're willing to buy an EV for the same or more, than what an ICE car costs, which was not the reason that we were extremely successful, I would say, the last year and a half.
It seems to me like the pulse I've sort of picked up on here is that the used side, the used EV business is still doing pretty well. There's been a slight slowdown since, the credit's gone away. The new car business seems to be going through a very tough time, much more than the used car business, at least on the EV side. Well, let's talk about, you're also we haven't talked about VW. You're the chairman of the National Dealer Council. Why did you decide to, why did you pursue that role?
I don't know if I'd say I pursued it. They may have pursued me for that role. I've served in many boards.
Mic drop.
At some point, that's a tough position to have. And, not everyone wants that position. So I did have my predecessor contact me pretty frequently, hoping that I would take the baton from him and continue on. So I had a little bit of pressure to take the position. I'm glad that I did. It's certainly, the leadership has definitely improved with Kel Gruner. So looking forward to that, but it's going to take some time at VW for them to really turn around the brand like they need to. So right now we're kind of putting, Band-Aids on, trying to sell whatever we can and know that, it's going to take some incentives, some marketing, to get the demand to where it needs to be. And then they need to fix the product and the quality and have a long-term strategy.
That was going to be my question. From what you can share, it seems like there's a product issue, and I don't know what it is, but when I see, sales slumping, I think incentives and marketing is one thing, but product to me is the root cause in many cases. What do you think needs to change there? Your opinion? What's wrong with the product?
So, one thing is we don't have a hybrid product. So, we're either EV or ICE. And now the EV strategy is totally changed. So we're pretty much stuck with ICE, without a truck or, large SUVs. So we're typically hybrids are succeeding in, the segments that they play in. Beyond that, there's been some quality and some reliability issues with the products. There's been some quirkiness with some of the software, the infotainment and stuff like that, that frustrates customers. So getting ahead, getting that stuff fixed, ironed out, getting some software production, here in the United States versus Europe, whether that's Rivian software that they know is working really well, or something else, but mainly ironing out a lot of the software bugs that they've had, as well as just some of the general reliability with the brand that they've struggled with over the years.
This episode is brought to you by CDK Global. When it comes to inventory, dealers are relying more and more on technology instead of their gut. That's why CDK has launched the Vehicle Inventory Suite. It centralizes your entire inventory in one place and uses AI and CDK data to help you price cars perfectly in seconds. And it even shows changes to car values in real time. Merchandising is lightning quick with AI-generated vehicle descriptions, image capture, and publishing, all in their easy-to-use app. This competitively priced inventory solution will deliver for your store no matter what DMS you're currently using. Learn more at cdkglobal.com or by clicking the link in the show notes below.
And what would you say is the mood amongst the rest of the council and the dealers? How just what's the feeling in there?
I'd say the mood is pretty low right now. I've been contacted more recently than in other times, and everyone's seen the Nissan letter that's floating around.
Yeah.
So we've certainly had some direct conversations with Volkswagen executives, whether they be here locally or with the brand board. But I think we're kind of reaching those levels because our return on sales is very similar to Nissan return on sales. And it doesn't necessarily seem like we have this master plan to get us out of this in the short term.
And do you feel like you have the right tools at your disposal to really effectuate change? What's your feeling being in the position you're in today?
So to make change with the brand? Yeah. So, I understand that, my role, I'm not going to go in there and change how Volkswagen, AG does business. You can see that with what they're doing with Scout. As they continue to push forward. And we're pushing back as hard as we can and letting them know exactly how we feel. But, we hope to have some little wins and to make some little changes and to, at least make sure that the executives understand where the dealers sit. And, my hope also too is the relationship was pretty strained a few years ago is to kind of bring back that relationship and try to work together so that we can make some positive changes.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Scout, and I think back to Ford that, walked back on their direct-to-consumer murmurs over the past couple of years. Do you think that something like that could happen with VW as well?
I hope so. I don't know if that's going to happen. They seem to be continuing to put in a lot of investment into Scout. Scott Keogh seems to be, on Bloomberg and different news, basically talking about the investment, how they're moving forward, how they're going direct to market. I think the wrinkle now is, I know at least here in the state of Colorado, is they were trying to go direct to consumer under the guise of being an EV brand, EV only brand, and now they have a hybrid. So, that changes things. So what's stopping any other brand from just starting a new competitive brand and competing with their dealer body?
The whole direct consumer stuff for legacy OEMs, like existing OEMs, really baffles me, because I'm trying to understand what is the real reason. If you say that it's consumer experience, I would argue that is not, claiming that you can do it better as a, from private, from home base as a D2C. There's zero signal or reason to believe that you can do it better. I don't think looking at Tesla is a good analogy. Like you're putting the, not arguably the number one entrepreneur in the world as the CEO of that company. They can do certain things that you otherwise likely cannot. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, if it's all about the money, if they say follow the money, and if it's all about capturing more value from the value chain here, and you're trying to be the dealer, that's an entirely different business model, right? Which you now have inventory risk at a much greater level. So I don't know. What am I missing here?
Truthfully, I didn't think Tesla was going to make it based on the burden that they were going to have to take on, based on, when they actually did sell a volume of cars, trying to service all those cars, and from, I think it's tough. I know when we trade for a Tesla, sometimes we're on the phone for at least 45 minutes to try to make a service appointment, and that could be several weeks out. And you see a lot of things that, like, if that existed in our dealership, there's just too much competition. We would go away. From a Scout perspective, it's a VW brand. So if they produce the same product that they give us, it's going to be really, really difficult for them to service all those people out of very limited, capacity, footprint, and employees. I honestly don't know how
it is. Yeah. I just wonder, what the conversations look like behind closed doors. Like, I'd love to be a fly on that wall and just see what assumptions they're working with, and, how they're arriving at these conclusions that this is the smartest thing to do at this point in their, in just the life of the brand, especially when the brand is having its challenges. The product is not where it needs to be. It's like I grew up in a household where, philosophically, like, what you did was you built a strong foundation and then you went on to the next thing. And if that foundation wasn't strong, you said, oh, wait 1 second, hold on, let me make sure house is in order, and then I'll do the next thing. I've actually really applied that today in Car Dealership Guy and what we've done and the launches we've done and all that. But even, in the dealership, the one time I didn't do that was the one time where things really did not go well. When, you try to kind of bite off too many things at once, when things are not in a strong position, and then you end up losing it all. And so it makes me, I think on a much bigger scale with Volkswagen, it's, like, your dealers need you right now. The market needs you. Inventory, the product, like you said, incentives, like, things need to be done the right way. Why are we channeling our energy in so many different directions when we're not doing the core thing that we set out to do well right now?
Those are the exact conversations that we're having with Volkswagen right now. Essentially, if you need to support, they tell us that we are their core business, then they need to support us with, like we are their core business, and not continuing to spend billions of dollars on what I call their passion projects. unfortunately, it seems if you follow the money, that the money is going into these passion products and not to support their core business, their core quote unquote business, which they're both Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche dealers.
And I've heard some stuff from Porsche as well. Let's zoom in a little bit. We've talked a lot about macro, big picture, but I'm curious in your own dealership, as someone who is I'd consider you a forward thinking, more progressive dealer, and also a CDG Circles member. Thank you. You're part of our dealer chat groups and peer group. And if you're listening, you should join as well. cdgcircles.com. Shameless plug. Can you tell me a little bit about what are you doing in your own stores nowadays? Like, how has just buying a car from Emich evolved over the last year, whether it be AI, technology, staffing? I'm curious to know what the vibe in store feels like nowadays and what's different.
I don't think we've transitioned all that much in the last year. Ever since I came into this business, very young as a dealer and a GM, that we were ahead of the game, and we are showing proposals with interest rates and no fluff or anything like that. We're straight to the point. We're going to give you a fair deal and from the start and make it as easy as possible. Sometimes
no haggle negotiation or no haggle pricing. What are you?
No, I'd say we're no hassle. So, we price all the used cars exactly where we want to transact them. I worked for AutoNation for a while, so I realized that, if you go hard, no haggle, and you don't negotiate at all, it's, if someone wants $200 off the price of the car to make the deal and then they feel like they won, then we're going to go ahead and take that deal and move on. If they want a couple $1,000s off the price of the car, we're going to have a discussion in terms of why the car's priced that way, show them comps and sell the value in the vehicle. Other than kind of going through that heavy EV push to where we enabled, all of our sales consultants to have these quotes and not go through a sales manager to get someone a quote, to take a deposit and move forward with the vehicle. That were just kind of these canned quotes for these different trim levels and miles per year on leases. I wouldn't say that we've changed much. We've just kind of stayed true to who we are, which is taking care of the customer and taking care of our people.
And what's your financial model when you were selling EVs prior to the tax credit being removed? Were you banking on any front-end margin? Was it all back-end? Like, how did you think about the economics of that sale?
We had to bank on some front-end margin because 90% were 2-year leases, and the F&I opportunity on a 2-year EV lease is not as good as another opportunity. So I would say our teams did very well despite, dealing with 2-year EV leases on the F&I end. So we were happy with that, but we definitely had to make some front-end margin.
This episode is brought to you by CDG Circles. Running a dealership today takes more than it ever has between new technology, regulations, and constant change. But the hardest part is doing it alone. I've been there. No one to call when things got tough, no place to ask what's actually working for you right now. Is this vendor legit? How would you fix this problem in your service department? And much, much more. And that's why I built CDG Circles, a new kind of peer group for top performing dealers. With Circles, you get a dealer group chat, structured sessions, real-time conversations, all with the full confidentiality, antitrust compliance, and a group of dealers who actually get it. Our goal is to end the isolation that costs dealers time, money, and clarity. We're not a 20 group. There's no travel, we're not retrospective, and we don't group you by brand. Circles is for dealers who are looking for in-the-moment insights. Almost like having a personal sounding board of top-notch dealers who are playing on your level. Over 1,000 dealers joined our original waitlist, and this month, we've officially opened up signups to additional founding members. So join us and be part of the first wave taking the car business back into our own hands. Join us at cdgcircles.com or click the link in the show notes below.
Mm-hmm. And what does service look like? Like, have you seen, how's it impacted your service department?
So EV sales on the Kia end, I guess we're talking 22, 23 kind of time period that we really started selling those cars a little sooner at VW and more volume at VW. And we have 2 VW stores. So we see the collection of service at VW being pretty good. Part of that has to do with, we have seen some repairs, some battery repairs, same with Kia as well. So those are usually some high dollar repairs, but we've actually been happy to see that people are pretty loyal to come back to the dealership for like an annual service. There's not a lot of competition in the aftermarket for that. So at this point, it seems like EV maintenance is standing up and the repairs are pretty good as well.
Interesting. Okay, so you're seeing customers. You said you did a couple batteries. Were those under warranty, I assume?
Oh, way more than a couple batteries.
Or you done many batteries, but were they all under warranty? Any customer pay there?
No customer pay yet. Everything's
customer pay. Okay. And what about tires? Have you brought those in-house? Is that like a bigger thing for you now in the service department?
So tires, we generally work with dealer tires, so through the OEM. So nothing necessarily special there. They run a promotion, buy 3, get 1, several months a year. We do well with that promotion. Being in Colorado, we get weather. There's a traction law as well. So if you want to go up to the mountains, so that helps us sell some snow tires and make sure they got enough tread on their tires. But certainly EVs go through tires, blowout tires based on their weight as well. So when they come back here, we obviously do our best to sell them tires.
So what's the punchline for dealers that are maybe reluctant or maybe share your brand? Is it like lower volume, higher RO when you think about EVs? Is that the case to be made, or is that incorrect? Or I should say lower frequency, like coming to the dealership service once a year, but when you do arrive, your RO is higher? What's the ultimate?
That's what we're seeing. Typically we'll have a lot of recalls, software updates. The car's driving fine, but on the back end they've updated a bunch of stuff, and particularly on the Volkswagen side, they've struggled with the over-the-air updates. So we've still had to continue to do those in the dealership. Now that's something that probably will change in the future when we do lose those software updates and some of the recalls that they can do over the air.
Interesting there. Fred, what about AI? I know I mentioned briefly technology. Have you deployed any like voice AI, any chat AI, text, anything, any like standalone AI systems other than, of course, what's baked into your like pre-existing DMS and all that?
We use Numa, which has some AI in it. We're also
voice.
We're piloting some AI in the office right now. So to post certain things and to do some things in the DMS that, right now just take manual entry, being able to read the invoices, input them. So we're working with a vendor right now on piloting something like that.
Anything particularly exciting to you nowadays, or is this right now wartime? Like tax credits gone. We had a large percentage of our business focused on that. We got to readjust quickly. Is that kind of where the head's at?
It's pretty much wartime at this point, but we've always
seems like it.
We've always been focused on fixed operations, so a parts and service business, and making sure that we have a really strong foundation there, and that can support the ebbs and flows that we get in the variable side of the business.
Mm-hmm. What do you typically hover around, like absorption levels and fixed ops?
The VW stores close to 70. Kia is just growing. We opened that store in 22.
It's new. Yeah.
It's new. And at our Chevy store, it's probably in the 60% range.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
What haven't I asked you? I feel like we've talked about a lot, macro. We've talked about some in-store. You're probably right now day by day with the EV stuff as you're readjusting. What else didn't I ask you?
Maybe about our community involvement and what we do there.
Tell me about it. So, I do have culture written down here, and I have a couple points. So
okay.
What's your just philosophy on culture and community involvement? How are you going about that?
I take them as two different subjects. So community involvement, which actually I think helps build the culture the way that we do it, is we have a board called Emich Cares. So I think it's 10 or 12 employees between the 4 dealerships. We can have bylaws that it's certain, positions and departments and dealerships, so we have fair representation. But the idea is they meet once a month. They have a budget of about $100,000 a year, and they spend that as they see fit on philanthropical projects. We also do some employee hardship stuff. So if there's, they hear that there's some employee that had an issue or something like that, they'll look at that and then make a decision on, supporting that employee in whatever way that they can. So I like how it gets everyone involved. It's not me making the decisions on what we're donating to and who we're supporting, and that there's actually some thought that comes, with it, and that the employees feel, invested in the process.
That's nice. So it's basically bottoms up, and the employees actually get to make the decisions here. And is this like a monthly thing, quarterly? How often do they do this?
They meet monthly.
Oh, nice.
They rotate between the stores, and they meet monthly.
And what have you supported recently?
Oh, all sorts of things. So we just had our golf tournament, and then that supported a charity that gives meals to families that can't afford it, which, right now with SNAP and everything like that is probably being felt huge. We support different things that support, battered women, tons of different projects.
Very cool.
Almost, I think, they pick and choose too many, where maybe we need to focus more money with one project, but it seems like we spread it out pretty well.
That's good. How do you think about the future of Emich, and do you want to leave a legacy? Do you care about that? What's your kind of long-term vision?
Yeah, so my long-term vision is to hopefully work with my son or my daughters in the future, and
family in the game.
Yeah. I don't want to, just spin this up to sell it. I like what I do. I love the people that I work with. And I want to continue to do it. And I hope that, someday I can, pass this on to, whether it's my kids or someone else, and, continue on.
Incredible. Well, dude, you have a great story, and you're a mover and shaker. You got a lot on your plate, and you're growing. So it's really cool to see. Again, thank you for being part of Circles. We're excited to have you there and to grow that with you as well. And with that, I hope I am going to be very curious. I almost want to extend an invite to have you come back on Daily Dealer Live in a month or two, because I'm going to be curious to see how you have navigated the business through the EV blip right now. So, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. You're a smart guy, and you're convicted, and you're not afraid of confrontation. So that's my assessment, at least. Fred Emich, Emich Automotive, Fred Emich IV, Emich Automotive. Fred, thank you so much for coming on the pod. It's been super, super insightful. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.